Time. So, hello everyone. My name is Nari Fitzgerald, and I am a Black mental wellness ambassador. I'm so very excited just to be here with you guys. This is my first year of being a part of the conference, and so far, it has been amazing. And so I am just so very excited to introduce our speaker for this specific session. In reading her bio, she is everything, you guys. So, without further ado, our speaker for this session is Aisha Adkins, who is a sought after writer, speaker, advisor, and organizer who is passionate about building equitable, inclusive, and comprehensive public health and care infrastructures. She earned her Master's of Public Administration from the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies in 2020, and she became a certified nonprofit professional, CNP, that year as well. She carved out a niche for herself in 2017 when she founded Our Turn to Care, a nonprofit organization connecting connecting people of color and the LGBTQIA plus millennial caregivers to information, resources, and each other. The organization merged with the Love Labor Project in 2021 before closing later that year. Later that year, she pivoted from direct support, focusing attention on advocacy, and she then joined Caring Across Generations, where she currently serves as a constituency engagement manager. In this role, she organizes family caregivers, older adults, and disabled people to collectively transform their way that care is given, received, and viewed right here in the U.S. A lifelong learner, she was recently selected to participate in the 2023 cohort of Columbia University's Age Boom Academy Fellowship. An eager collaborator, she also sits on many advisory boards for the Alter Dementia, as well as Georgia, I'm going to mess up the words, you guys, Gerontology Society. And now, you guys, again, if you could just help me in introducing and welcoming our speaker, Miss Aisha Adkins.
Thank you so much, Nari. I appreciate the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to the Caregiver Survival Guide, Accessing Mental Wellness While Caring for Family. Now, I would like to put a disclaimer out there before we get started that I am not a mental health professional. I am a family caregiver. I am a political organizer and a mental wellness advocate. And I always encourage folks, if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988 or reach out to a mental health professional or someone that you trust for immediate assistance. Now, with that being said, we'll get started. So today we will discuss the national landscape of caregiving, the mental health connection. We'll frame what caregiving is. We'll discuss tools for surviving caregiving. I'll share a bit of my story, and then I will share ways that we can stay in touch. What is caregiving? Caregiving can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be practical. Financial caregiving can look like managing estates, paying bills, monitoring spending, and arranging insurance needs. And this may be, come in the form of complete control of someone's estate, or it can be a partnership with advisement. Emotional caregiving includes providing companionship, friendship, and emotional support to a disabled or aging person in your family or community. And practical caregiving often involves assisting with activities of daily living, also referred to as ADLs, like bathing, dressing, feeding, cooking, cleaning, and other activities the person can no longer has been unable to perform for themselves. No form of caregiving is more valuable than another. They all take a tremendous amount of effort and dedication. And everyone has the opportunity to care in different ways. If you've met one caregiver, you've met one caregiver, right? So, the landscape of caregiving. If you are providing care for someone, the first thing you should know is that you are not alone. According to a 2020 report by AARP, there are more than 53 million caregivers in the United States. This number is growing every day as a result of the exponentially aging population of baby boomers. Caregiving is common in Black communities. 13% of African Americans identify as family caregivers, but what we know is, again, that number is underreported, partially because, to our next point, caregivers do not always know they are caregivers. Many Black folks don't self-identify as caregivers. It's just, what we do to care for members of our family and our community. We step up, and that's how that's what we've done for millennia, and or for, I should say, for centuries, and that's often what we continue to do. If you do not identify as a caregiver, you should know that everyone is impacted by caregiving, either directly or indirectly. Each of us at some point in our lives, either at the beginning, the end, or multiple times in between, can become a caregiver at any time or become a recipient of care at any time. So, a bit of my story. You see here a photograph of my parents, Ron and Rosetta Adkins. My mother was diagnosed with frontotemporal degeneration, or FTD, in 2013. When she was first diagnosed, we were very unfamiliar with the disease, as she was exhibiting symptoms of severe changes in mood and behavior, and in her case, short-term memory loss. We knew something was wrong. It took multiple diagnoses to finally get to the right and the most accurate diagnosis. And once we received that diagnosis, and I did a little bit of research about dementia, I realized that my mother likely would not be safe at home. She loved to cook, absolutely was a phenomenal baker, had her own baking company. But the reality is that when my mother started to lose her memory, she might forget that she had the eye on the stove, or the eye on the stove. She might forget how to separate the laundry and pour bleach into dark clothing. And so she needed assistance and guidance with these sorts of things. There was also the possibility that she could get lost while driving, which did happen. So I had this discussion with my father, and it made the most sense at the time for me to take off from my job and stay with my mom and assist her with these things. At the time, I was unfamiliar with caregiving. I had never heard of the term, and I did not know that it would be a long-term commitment. I ended up caring for my mother for 10 years until her passing this July of 2023. So some of you may be wondering what the connection is between caregiving and mental health. Caregiving of any kind can have a major impact on the caregiver's mental health. Firstly, caregiver stress is real. 26% of caregivers have moderately or severely elevated levels of stress. 30% of caregivers have moderately or elevated levels of anxiety. This is according to a study by Calm in 2023. Caregiver stress can include things like sleeplessness, anger, difficulty maintaining relationships. The anxiety may surround the person that's being cared for, and any surgical procedures they may have upcoming, and making sure that they're okay, and caring for all of their needs, making sure they're all met. Additionally, caregiving can cause a lot of feelings, okay? Feelings of isolation, which is the result often of decreased interaction with the outside world. And it can create an environment of isolation for many caregivers. Feelings of resentment. Feelings of resentment may arise if caregivers feel as though their role has caused them to miss out on opportunities with their career or socializing or other milestones that we in our society use to judge one's success and often value. Depression, stress, and anxiety. So, caring for a family member or a community member, a member of our chosen family, um, particularly for those with a terminal illness, can cause changes in friendship. It can create tensions within families. There can be grief around that experience. And the feeling that life is passing them by can lead caregivers to experience depression, stress, and anxiety. Lastly, loneliness. Many caregivers spend several hours caring for their family or community members and or working at the same time, which leaves little time for social interaction. Moreover, it is common for caregivers to do this work independently or alone without help or assistance. And this can leave them feeling misunderstood. It can also cause those feelings of loneliness. Caregivers can also experience strained relationships. Sometimes family caregivers can encounter disagreements, challenges with family members or distancing from family and friends who may not understand all of the challenges that they're experiencing and may not be able to relate to the stressors that impact them. They can experience exhaustion and burnout. For many family caregivers, there is intense physical and emotional investment that can lead to exhaustion and burnout, particularly if they do not have the proper support and access to resources. This can particularly be a challenge for folks in the Black community who either are unable to pay for services out of pocket, for respite or other kinds of assistance, or for those who are unable to qualify for some of the programs that are available. Caregivers may experience difficulty at work or school because it can be challenging to balance care responsibilities with the responsibilities we have in our daily lives that that we use in order to work, in order to attend school, and to contribute to society. Lastly, poor physical health. Many caregivers experience physical challenges like strained muscles, migraine headaches, difficulty sleeping, digestive issues, and other physical difficulties. But there is hope. There are ways to cope with being a family or informal caregiver that can lead to a more balanced, more joyful life. You may even find ways to thrive. Caregiving can also be joyful, right? We talk about the challenges, but caregiving can be joyful. Those caring for people with whom they share a healthy relationship have described the experience as a joyful one where they are able to laugh, they're able to spend more quality time with that person and engage in a way that they may have otherwise not had the opportunity to do so prior to assuming a role as a caregiver. Caregiving can also be rewarding because providing care for someone who needs it can create a bond. It can make you feel as though you are doing something to really make their quality of life better, and you can feel better about yourself. Caregiving can feel purposeful. Many caregivers find a greater purpose in supporting others in their time of need. Often, family caregivers find a calling and may become home health aides or nurses because they realize that they have the skills and the tools then to transfer what they've learned in their own homes and communities to other people. Caregiving can also be exciting. It can be adventurous and full of surprises around every corner. There can be moments of unpredictability, which, yes, can cause stress, but sometimes pleasant surprises that we could never have anticipated. Now, I am going to share a few tools for surviving the challenges that can come with caregiving. The first is speak up. Speaking up when you are struggling can provide a healthy outlet in challenging times. Family, friends, support groups, all of these places and spaces and people can provide an outlet for your emotions and let you know that you are not alone. Get help. Tell friends and family and neighbors that you need help and be specific about how and when they can be of help. See if you can set up regularly or create a team or set something up regularly or create a team or a network of support. You'll often hear people in your community say, well, just let me know if you need anything. Take them up on that. Maybe it's assistance with groceries. Maybe it's taking mom or dad to the doctor's office. Maybe it is coming over and spending time with your person so that you can have an hour to yourself or an afternoon to yourself to take care of you. Practice mindfulness. Whether you have a faith practice or just want to improve your mental health, being aware of your thoughts and implementing ways to manage difficult ones can bring more peace into your daily life, helping to lower that caregiver stress. And then last but certainly not least, seek professional help. It's important to reach out to the mental health professionals. There are those who are trained in counseling caregivers. There are also grief counselors who focus on caregiving. You can find a new outlet. Speaking up when you're struggling can provide a healthy outlet, but you can also find hobbies and other ways of engaging with yourself that can bring relief. You can look for the positive. You can focus on the things that are going right instead of the things that are going wrong. You can change your perspective. I know one thing that helped me in my journey is that I realized that, yes, while I felt like at the time, particularly when I was very young, when this journey began, that I was missing out on the socialization, missing out on job opportunities that my peers were being able to tap into and have the opportunity to, meet those milestones that we talk about, like, starting families and getting married and getting their dream job, buying a home, right? What I realized is that I have one set of parents, just one. And for me, it was important to acknowledge that and lean into that and understand that spending this time with my mother and my father um, was essential and was something that was precious for me. You can also create your own toolkit, combining any or all of the above. I also want to say that particularly in the Black community, sometimes we can be a little leery of getting the help that we need, seeking out that professional help, because we think that somehow that means we don't have faith, right? But I'll tell you what, I got my faith plus medication and a therapist too. There's a long tradition in the Black community of faith practices, and that's wonderful and beautiful. Sometimes there can be a stigma against seeking therapy or medical intervention for mental health. But practicing faith is not mutually exclusive to seeking treatment for mental and physical health. Both can help you lead a fuller, more fruitful life while caregiving. Grounding exercises. I'm going to share a few ways that you can mitigate caregiver stress in the moment. One is the 5 senses exercise, and this image comes from yourtherapysource.com. Checking in with your senses helps you to come back to present in times of being overwhelmed, in times of anxiety, when you just don't know what to do, when you're feeling a little lost. You ask yourself these 5 questions. What do I see? What do I see around me in this particular moment? What do I feel? What do I feel on my skin? I feel my clothing. Do I feel lotion on my skin? Right? What do I hear? Do I hear music? Do I hear children playing? Do I hear background noise of the television or the hum of the refrigerator? What do I smell? Am I wearing a fragrance? Is there a candle nearby? Is there food on the stove? What do I taste? Did I recently eat a sandwich? Am I sucking on a mint? Right? All of these things bring us back to present and help us to stay focused on the right now. Because sometimes caregiving becomes about the future, right? Constantly worrying about what's going to happen next. But exercises like this one can help us stay grounded in the present. You can connect with something comforting. In those moments of anxiety, when you're feeling triggered, you can grab a favorite stuffed animal, pop a favorite fruit or piece of candy in your mouth, or light a scented candle, anything to just soothe yourself. You can also picture a safe place or safe memory. It may help you to envision a place or a specific memory where you felt safest and most comfortable, secure in that moment. Just bringing yourself back to that. In those moments of overwhelm, in those moments where you feel triggered, in those moments when you're feeling anxious, just bring yourself back to that safe space. It could be a place in nature. It could be a memory from childhood that's pleasant. Okay. Just picturing a safe place or memory. You can complete a body scan. If you are feeling any physical discomfort, I know I tend to carry a lot of tension in my shoulders. I keep my shoulders way up here by my ears. I do a body scan, just starting at the top of my head, just checking for discomfort, checking for tension. I feel that in my shoulders, and I drop those shoulders. I might feel it in my stomach. I might feel those butterflies of anxiety. Just let those go with some deep breaths, right? And just doing that all the way to your toes and just connecting with yourself. Again, it's about being present with you. And it's just something you can do for yourself that doesn't take very long, but can help bring you back to present. There are a few resources that we have available that many of you may be familiar with. There's therapy for Black girls, therapy for Black men, inclusive therapists. Those are all really great resources for finding the professional help to get you through those difficult times and to help you maintain your mental health. Specifically, connecting you with therapists, psychiatrists, social workers, okay, psychologists who have shared lived experiences, who occupy bodies who are that are similar to yours. There's the Open Path Collective, which has either no fee or sliding scale fee services um, as well. If you're looking for ways to take action and to be engaged, and if you're looking for purpose in your caregiving journey, there is Caring Across Generations, where you can um, take political action, changing the way that we view care in this country, the way that people receive care, so we can continue to live and age in our homes and communities with dignity. Hilarity for Charity has a number of support groups available, specifically for folks in the Black community and other communities of color, or by specific forms of dementia. AARP is an excellent resource for uh, those who are looking for more information on caregiving, the statistics around it, and again, what is being done legislatively to help assist family caregivers and the people receiving care. Caregiving While Black and Altered Dementia are wonderful academic programs that focus on the Black caregiving experience, really centering what we go through as people who are living in our Blackness while providing care, and what that looks like for us, and how we can be better resourced as well. If you are interested in learning more about the work that I do, uh, and you are interested in connecting, please do not hesitate to reach out. I've shared my contact information here, and I would be more than happy to connect. And I will pass it back to Nari. Thank you for joining. There may be some questions in the chat. Let's take a look.
Okay, guys, so if anyone has any questions at all, this is the time that we want to go ahead and insert them into the chat box, so that way, we can get some conversation going. This is a very important topic, whether you are a caregiver yourself, or you know someone that is, right, or something you're thinking about. It's just, there are so many questions that we can kind of address in this space. So if there are any that you have, please feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I'm gonna start going with my questions. But please, if you guys do have any questions, please add them to the text box. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to go ahead, so we can try to get some going, and then we shall go from there.
I know there's a lot to process.
Yeah, no worries. I see it now too. It looks like we have a question. So, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Is it Rafia? Stated, I lost my grandmother after caring for her about 10 years. What would you, I'm sorry, I can talk to you today, you guys. What do you want to say about this sandwich generation? She's 99 years old. Wow. Okay. So I'll let you go ahead and kind of give some feedback on that.
Oh, definitely. That's, firstly, my condolences for your loss. I know that is always challenging, particularly when you are caring for someone for a while, and then you reach the end of that journey with them, with their transition. As for the sandwich generation, yes. So the sandwich generation is defined as someone who's caring for an aging loved one or a person in their family while also raising children. And it can be, there are many folks in this position, and it can definitely be challenging. And again, it's about making sure that you are creating community around you, that you delegate as much as possible, right? And that you just take those brief moments uh, for yourself. And it can be, you know, just seconds, even to just check in and to do a quick body scan that takes 30 seconds, right? To calm yourself. It can be lighting that candle. But it's about making sure that, you look at all of your options in terms of the resources that are available, and combine that with some of that, um, that self-care that takes place in moments in between your caregiving. I know that's definitely challenging.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was actually like very powerful. I know for me specifically, so transparency moment. I'm actually a new caregiver, I guess you could say. My father-in-law actually has stage 4 cancer, and so because of that, we've decided that we would like to keep it in the family rather than giving that role to someone else. And so just to hear you speak about this, I know again for me it hits home, and I'm sure that for many others in this session that it resonates with them. And so, again, just thank you so much for your insight, your knowledge, for also just being the change that we need in this world. Does anyone else have any other questions? Again, like, do not be shy, you guys. This is our time for Q&A. We set this aside specifically so you guys could ask whatever questions that you have. So please, if you have any other questions, please feel free to go ahead and share them in the chat.
Most definitely. Yes. Becoming a caregiver is something that's happening, every day for folks. And it's certainly something that can be overwhelming at first. But, by just taking your time and figuring things out, and you'll learn so much as you go along, and maybe trial and error sometimes, right? But we're all human. And that's the other thing, is learning, to live and exist in your own humanity, and giving yourself grace is also very important.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And I think it's so powerful to emphasize grace, compassion. We live in a society where I feel like we always feel like we have to be on go. We always have to give to others or to our jobs, just to whatever it is. And so in doing so, we forget to really give ourselves the compassion that we need to give to others. And because of the fact that we don't, we find ourselves pouring from an empty glass. And so, it's so very important that you mention that. And I think that that's, one of the key points, and even the foundation just of anything, but in this case specifically of being a caregiver, because it can be, a tedious task, if I must say so myself, and being transparent. It's very challenging, but also rewarding at the same time. So thank you for that.
Of course. Of
So
course.
we have some more. So Sherry says, I have a friend who is caregiving and she is struggling with caregiving. I am here to share your info with her. Thank you. What are the messages to tell yourself to make sure that you take care of yourself in the process?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, and certainly I'd be more than happy to connect with your friend. I would say, I often tell myself that I am human and I am doing the best that I can, and that's to be expected, right? And I also remind myself, to not try to figure everything out, and beyond my control. There is a lot with caregiving that may be out of our controls, such as the person, if they're dealing with an illness in particular. It can be very, there can be a sense of a loss of control, right? Because you cannot control diagnoses, you cannot control the progression of disease. What you can control is your response to it. And what I've learned is to respond rather than to react to situations, and to take a moment before you respond, take a moment to process, and then say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and this is the one next step. And it's about taking things moment by moment rather than trying to think of, the next 5 years or the next, 5 months even. There are times when it calls for that, but primarily it's about, again, just trying as much as possible to stay present in the current moment, in order to collect your thoughts and make your next plans.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a very beautiful question and an even more beautiful answer. So thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have another question from Faith. How can I help my mom build her patience with her mother, my Nana, who is struggling to accept the fact that she needs help more times than not? Our family doesn't take care of her, my grandfather full time, but they're 80 plus years of age, and of course, their health continues to deteriorate.
That is a really, really very, very good question. Patience is something that we don't talk a lot about, as a society, and it's something that needs to be developed. And you hear, you kind of hear the joke that if you pray for patience, God will give you something to be patient about, right? And I think there is some truth to that, but I think it's about identifying priorities. Sometimes we lose patience over the little things. Sometimes we lose patience over, well, um, if someone is not adhering to kind of societal standards of what we think is supposed to be happening. So it might be someone who's experiencing memory loss, or experiencing cognitive decline. Maybe they aren't wearing matching socks. That's okay. That's okay. That's one of the things you can relinquish. That's one of those things you can let go. And when you come to terms with that, that's when that patience begins to set in. It's also important to acknowledge that you can only do so much to influence others' behavior. It's You are not responsible for how others respond. And as painful as it can be to maybe watch someone respond differently than you would choose to do so, or engage in a way that you do not feel comfortable with, as long as no one is being harmed and placed in harm's way as a result. Sometimes the patience comes in learning to um, let people, exist the way that they show up. And that creates a sense of calm and a sense of patience, for yourself. But you can't control other people's behavior. You can only share what you know, and lead by example.
Oh my goodness, like I'm literally over here like resonated with everything you said. Yes, like thank you for that. I know for me personally, being in this new role as a caregiver, I'm always trying to control every last thing that happens. And I feel like when something is out of my control, it speaks on me as a caregiver or even on my loved one, right? It can be, again, it's something that can be very challenging to navigate. So I think that it's very important, like you said, just to have that patience and just kind of accept things as they come to you, right? And just kind of go with the flow of it, and it, again, in doing so, you're kind of taking your power in this new position. And I think
Yes.
that that is what makes it just all the better in the
Yes.
process. So that's great. Anyone else have any other questions? She has been just killing it, you guys. She's so knowledgeable. I'm literally like over here, my heart's palpitating. I'm like, oh my gosh, I understand. Oh my goodness, thank you so much just for the knowledge that you are giving. And just have platforms like this where you can share your knowledge, again, just to continue to be the change that we just need in the world. It really does make a difference. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that.
Well, I sincerely appreciate everyone joining and tuning in. And this is a beautiful, beautiful and much needed space. These conversations need to keep happening around mental health, and specifically how the Black community, um, how we engage with our mental health and our mental wellness. It's so vital, and I'm glad that I could do my small part.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a small part. Let's not even downplay. You're doing a big part. Thank you so much. And it looks like we have another question
Oh,
from
excellent.
Dr. Busby, who asked, "What are your favorite resources for caregivers?" Yes, that's a great question.
Yes. So I definitely, in addition to the ones that I shared, I would say, finding support groups um, that are specifically created for Black and Brown folks. You know, it's incredibly important. Support groups have played a significant role in my caregiving experience. I'm still an active caregiver for my father. I had my support group meeting today, and it doesn't have to even be anything formal. Sometimes it's just reaching out to others who have a shared experience and saying, can we talk on a regular basis? Is this something that we can schedule? Can we, once a month, just over coffee or over, it could be over Zoom, or a digital platform. But, I would say connecting with others is key. Many of your primary care providers, your therapists also have resources as well. But those support groups are they're a game changer. They really are. And if you find that the first one that you attend isn't quite what you were expecting, go again, give it another try, or seek out other platforms. There are also some on social media that do exist that are helpful, but don't give up. Just because it may be uncomfortable initially, especially if you are not accustomed to engaging in support groups. And I would say the same thing with seeking therapy. Continue searching until you find the right fit.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely does. And that sometimes it takes time for a good fit. I always think of it like a perfect pair of jeans, right? Like we got to try on a couple. We might got to wiggle in the ones that we really like, to get that good fit. But in doing so, you're able to find what is specifically for you. So, yes, thank you for that. And then I actually have a question myself. So, for you
Sure.
personally, just
Mhm.
being in this space of a caregiver, not to mention you're an advocate, you hold an abundance of roles and titles. How do you kind of just set yourself apart from that and take that time back for yourself? We talked about compassion, we talked about grace. So, what does that look like for you and just kind of being you and not the caregiver, not the advocate, and all these other titles?
Well, in full transparency for me, I think that's something I'm still working on and I'm still discovering and I'm still figuring out, right? It's become such a significant part of my life and something I've done for so long that it has really become my identity in many ways. Um, but I think that particularly in, the passing of my mother, I'm in a space now where I am on a journey of rediscovering myself and my finding my interests. And I went to an open mic night the other night. I try to exercise and listen to as much music as possible and connect with new friends, right? um, and develop and really maintain existing relationships. And so those are the things um, that I do to really get back, in touch with myself. Again, using those mindfulness techniques and, you know, therapy is helping me to really explore what and who I am and who I want to be. But it's a process, and I know that it's not a process that will be completed overnight, and it's something that I look forward to. It's challenging and it can be tough. It can bring up a lot, but it's something I'm dedicated to. And I would say, for others who are exploring identity, being a caregiver, I would say definitely, you know, find things that represent you that you can hold on to, whether it's a favorite film, a favorite movie, a favorite book, music, anything that can bring you back to yourself and remind you just who you are.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, because when any kind of role or title, sometimes we tend to like just dive so much into it that we tend to lose ourselves and who we are. So I like that, having your favorite book, music, whatever it is. I think that is a great thing to just keep in mind, not only just being a caregiver with anything that you are, kind of getting into that's new, but specifically with being a caregiver, because caring for others can be, again, a very, it can take a lot out of you. Right. And sometimes people tend to lose themselves. So thank you so much for that. Again, just thank you so much for you being you, your energy, your knowledge. Just thank you so much. I can't say it enough. Again, I know I speak for everybody else on here when I say that we enjoyed the conversation that was had, the energy in the room. And so you guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I don't have anything else. Just please be sure to check out the shop at the Black Parade Expo. Not to mention, we will love you guys' feedback on the conference evaluation. So if you could do that. Is there anything else that you want to say? Is there a way that people can kind of keep up with you if they wanted to?
Yes. No, I just, again, want to express my gratitude and my thanks. And I invite folks to visit my website, AishaAdkins.com. I'm also on social media. So please feel free to follow, reach out, connect. I am here and would love to hear from each of you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you guys again so much. This was an amazing session. Oh my goodness. I'm like literally just like clutching my invisible pearls. So thank you so much again. If nothing else, you guys, and we will see you in the next couple sessions. We're going to end a couple minutes early unless you guys have anything else. But thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and head out.
Thank you
So much, Aisha. Thank